Can the fighters from old days beat the fighters now? Hell no.
No, it's not even close. No, Tank in his prime.
Yeah.
Tank in his prime what?
Dan the Beast Severn.
Yeah.
Number one, absolute dominance all around.
Not dominance all around. He lost to Ken Shamrock. He lost to Royce Gracie.
Yeah, that's true.
I see no technique. If you're coming on, come on.
Welcome to Casual Academy MMA. Join us as we dive deep into mixed martial arts history for every UFC, WEC, Pride, and Strikeforce event. We'll examine the fights and fighters of the past, reviewing the eras, techniques, and revolutions that made our beloved sport the phenomenon it is today. Without further ado, let's watch the fights.
Can the fighters from old days beat the fighters now? Hell no.
No, it's not even close. No, not even close.
No.
I want to talk to the audience for a second. I love you guys. Keep commenting. There's 200,000 of you out there commenting. No. Tank Abbott would lose to Joseph Benavidez, okay? And that's a bad example because Joseph Benavidez was the GOAT that was never the GOAT.
Yeah.
But no, not even fucking close.
No, Tank Abbott would flatline Joseph Benavidez, bro.
No. Okay, well,
He would flatline Joseph Benavidez.
no, really? I don't think
The little
so.
flyweight?
Yeah, I think Joseph Benavidez would get a low single on him and probably
damn.
choke him out.
Dude, oh, that size difference is way too crazy.
Okay, well that's an extreme example. Even though I won, okay,
But okay, these guys could not be a top 10 heavyweight nowadays, even for how shallow the heavyweight division is now.
the heavyweight division is awful. But I want to throw something out there. Dan Severn. Severn.
He might be top. He could do something.
Dan Severn.
Could beat Martian Tybura.
Yeah. Okay, well let me throw this out to you. Dan Severn versus Derek Lewis.
Dude, we're about to see how Derek Lewis is going to be fighting this weekend, but
I remember Tank sprawled on Dan.
right.
You know what I mean? And like Ken Shamrock couldn't really stop a takedown.
I mean, Derek Lewis' cardio is fucking horrendous, bro.
Yeah.
So maybe Dan, bro. Maybe Dan beats him.
That's like that would be like the fight of the century but there would be no implications on it. It means nothing but Dan Severn versus Derek Lewis.
Yeah, man. But how did you feel watching UFC 1 through 10?
First of all, it was completely different.
Yes, big time.
Totally different than anything I watched. And I started watching 20 years ago. I started watching when Chuck kind of was running the UFC, even before he was running it necessarily. But for me, the big thing that I noticed, let's have this conversation a little bit later, but one of my very first takeaways was that Royce Gracie was overrated. I'm not committing to that. I'm not committing to that right now. I want to have a full discussion on that. But within that, I feel like UFC 1 to 10 was broken up into a few different eras because it was rapidly changing. There was, and chime in anywhere I'm wrong, there was the ground and pound era that kind of ended things. There was that really brief period of like well-roundedness that
If we're talking about in order, it definitely was like Royce Gracie's era.
For sure. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. That set the tone.
That's era number one.
And my thing is when we were first watching this UFC, I was like, okay, Royce Gracie fucking effortlessly beat everybody at UFC 1. My thought was, damn, Royce Gracie is about to go on a crazy run.
Yeah.
Like he's going to go through UFC 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I thought he was going to rack up wins because of how effortlessly he was beating everybody.
Yeah.
But like, nah, bro, that shit got shut down quick.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of.
It did. Okay, well then, look, I thought maybe we'd do this a little bit later, but let's get into it now. Let's put that question on the table. And you start. Was Royce Gracie overrated?
Yes. I think they put him too high on a pedestal.
Do you remember what he was on MMA Junkie's top 30?
I don't.
Me neither.
I don't.
We'll find out.
But like, Royce Gracie's not a top 50 UFC fighter of all time.
Not even in the pioneer sense.
No, man. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. He was fantastic. He was great.
Yeah.
But just from hearing about his legendary name and status, like I thought he was going to go on a historical run.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he did, dude. He won 3 UFCs in a row, each of which he won.
He won two in a row.
2 in a row.
3 total.
Lost 3 and then came back at 4.
He's the only fighter to win 3 tournaments.
Now,
which is impressive.
Tournaments ended after a certain point, though. I don't know. We're still in tournaments, so I don't know. My thing is this, man, is in a world where people were not training 16 hours a day to fight.
Right.
Royce Gracie was great. Like the Harold Howards of the world, Royce Gracie beat. The Steve Jennums, and I don't even know if he beat Steve Jennum, did he? He never did he?
Who?
Royce Gracie.
No. They never fought.
But these were the type of guys that he was beating. Well, fuck, neither of them. The type of guys that he was beating, Art Jimerson, fucking...
they're frankly nobodies.
They're nobodies, and they had no careers. They went nowhere. He never beat Oleg Taktarov. He never beat Dan Severn. He never beat Don Frye. He did beat Ken Shamrock.
Yes, which is impressive.
Dude, that is weird, because what's weirder, too, is when you think like these like old guys, when they talk about like fighting... in their mind, they're like dudes just punching each other in the face.
Right.
But that is the furthest, another misconception.
True.
The furthest thing from what's happening. These dudes are not punching each other in the face. They're fucking on the ground. You know what I mean? I didn't mean to say fucking on the ground.
But
you know what I'm saying?
literally though. I mean, like, yeah, no, they're completely avoiding the stand-up, the clinch. It's like, and it's really like whoever is on bottom is kind of fucked for the rest of the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was another big thing too for the first few UFCs. I think I'm making this up. It might have been UFC 5, 6, whatever. I feel like it was not until UFC 7 that someone was losing and then came back. If you started losing, it was over basically.
And that's why guys were tapping out so early because especially in a tournament sense, like they get mounted and they'll just tap without even getting a strike thrown at them.
Yeah.
And it's like, at first we were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But then you kind of realize why they do it.
Yeah, of course. Because they're not like they're going home with even 50, like $50,000 is best case scenario.
Yes.
You're mounted by Marco Huas.
Yeah.
You're not going home with $50,000.
Dude, one of my biggest takeaways, just like in general, like instead of the eras, was like the UFC really didn't know what the fuck they were doing for the first.
The promotion,
I would say just like the idea of putting together these fights, it was just crazy as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, they weren't balanced at all.
No,
the entertainment factor was seeing one guy beat the hell out of another guy.
It really was. Yeah.
It wasn't like, because their whole thing was framed as who's the best, right? Between all these different styles.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like there's not a lot of competition.
No, there was no like for example, why did we never get Marco Huas versus Royce Gracie?
Right.
Like that felt like that would have been like a potential battle, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
There was a lot of those things. Dude, speaking of misconceptions, I think the number one most common comment we get is something to the effect of when men were men. Or, you know what I mean? Shit like that. When men were men. Man, the old UFC was the best.
Yeah.
Tank in his prime.
Yeah.
Tank in his prime what?
Look, I don't want to hate on our fans.
I don't either, but it's fucking hilarious.
Crazy.
It's hilarious.
Dude. They'll say something like, now it goes to the ground and it's just boring to watch. I'm like, damn, bro.
The other day I don't know if you saw this, but someone commented on one of our videos and it was one of those like generic. It's funny because like every one of these dudes, their comments are some variation of that same thing. But one of them said something like when men were men or when the UFC was great or something like that. Yeah. And I literally posted a fucking highlight video of Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier just to be like, you're fucking wrong. It is better now. Like, I love this shit. I love the old shit. It's better now.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want to get too deep into the modern shit. I've noticed a lot of podcasts are talking about like how the UFC is in decline right now and there's no stars.
Bro, I completely disagree.
I think the UFC is better than it's ever fucking been.
Absolutely.
Like, sure, the Chuck era was fun. The Anderson Silva era was fun. I get it. There was dominance. But there's just, the playing field is so different now.
Fighters are so good now, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, if you have a weakness, a fighter will game plan and completely exploit that.
100%.
Like, you have to be good everywhere.
Like Peyton Talbot, dude. Like Peyton Talbot, you know, he came back and looked really, really, really good or whatever.
Yeah.
But like Johnny Barcelos or, you know, however you say his name. I mean, that might as well have been UFC 3. Yeah. You know? So like if you're not a totally well-rounded fighter, Ilia Topuria, perfect example. Yes, he's this knockout artist. Dude, he crucifixed Charles Oliveira, the #1 submission threat in UFC history.
Yeah, man. Crazy. I mean, DDP, super well-rounded.
Yeah.
Marab is now well-rounded.
Yeah.
He fucking outstruck Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, crazy.
So, like, yeah, man, I have so much appreciation for the fighters now and how great they are. I don't know why people are talking shit on nowadays, but that's why I wanted to go back, is just to see the evolution of the game completely.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, I love this. Arguably, this is like as entertaining. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really love I hate to call it a sport, but I love like the mechanics of the sport.
Yeah, no, definitely.
This ain't a sport. This is like,
yes,
dude,
yeah.
Harold Howard, fucking case in point. Some of the top 10 fighters, which ones do you just need to talk about? Like, which guys do you, I know, you got to fucking.
Dan the Man Severn, dude. Dan the Man, Dan the Beast Severn.
Yeah.
#1. Best fighter of UFC 1 through 10. Just absolute dominance all around.
Yeah. Not dominance all around, because he absolutely definitively did not dominate
Royce Gracie.
Ken Shamrock either.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You know, in fact, he lost to Ken Shamrock. He lost to Royce Gracie. I'm not trying to dog Dan Severn. To me, he was I had him as #3, but I could see him as a #2.
Yeah.
You know, so
dominance all around.
In terms of just, if you had to pick one person, if you had to be like, this was the most dominant fighter in UFC 1 through 10, it was Dan Severn. What's up, guys? Thanks so much for watching. We hope you're enjoying our recap from Chapter 1, UFC 1 through 10. Kevin and I got into the studio a little bit, was doing some editing, finalizing Season 1 here, and we realized on our recap, we really did not go as in-depth as we wanted to on the pound-for-pound conversation.
Yeah, so here's a short clip of me and Nathan debating who's #1 and #2 of Chapter 1 between Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Enjoy. Ken Shamrock was my UFC 1 to 10 pound-for-pound fighter of the decade, of the season, or whatever you want to call it for Casual Academy. I cannot say enough good things about Ken. Let's just run through some of his wins right now. Kevin has his notable wins as Dan Severn, Oleg Taktarov, and Royce Gracie. If you've been paying any attention, those are 3 huge names. His losses are to Royce Gracie at UFC 1, which was what I call a surprise. You know, like, I don't think he would fall for it again. In fact, they fought again and he did not. His other loss is at UFC 9 or 10 to Dan Severn. The one fact is that you could argue a victory for either man. In fact, one of the 3 judges did. I personally argued it for Ken Shamrock. I think Ken Shamrock is just as strong as the strongest guy. He proved to be able to stop the best wrestlers' takedowns. Dan Severn was a monster. No one else could stop his takedowns. He did. He really game planned. He was one of the first fighters to go in there with a plan to, like, say, he even gave an interview after the Dan Severn fight and said, we know he's Greco-Roman. We know he drops his head. We knew the guillotine was going to be there. We knew he was susceptible to this. We knew we could avoid takedowns like that. Ken scrambles better than anybody. He was the most proficient at leg locks, heel hooks. He could be on the bottom and sweep under and sweep people by grabbing their legs. Ken was just advanced. Ken just had positions and submissions, and he understood the Octagon and he understood battle. The only thing I would take away from Ken is that a lot of times he didn't have a sense of urgency. He didn't ever have that, like Mark Coleman, I'm going to headbutt this guy until his nose breaks and the ref stops the fight. Also, his jiu-jitsu, positionally speaking, he lost 2 times. He lost control really bad trying to take the back.
Yeah.
One was to Chemo, and it was rather inconsequential because Chemo sucks. But Chemo was a big, strong guy. And then the other time was Dan Severn in the fight that he lost because he tried to take Dan's back, fell off. Dan ground and pounded the shit out of him for like 30 seconds. But Ken got up and got out. And for the other like 23 minutes of that fight, Ken was in control.
For sure.
So I have that victory to Ken, and for all of those reasons, Ken is my number one pound-for-pound fighter of the first era of Casual Academy.
Nice. That was good, dude. But fuck all that. Dan Severn is the number one pound-for-pound fighter of Casual Academy Season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the notable wins, bro. I mean, he defeated Oleg twice, Tank Abbott, Paul Verlins. I love how I have Dan Severn as his own notable win. He defeated himself. Dude. That's how fucking good he is. 2 times champion. And I would argue that his victories were better than Royce's victories. I mean, Royce has 3 belts, Dan has 2, but I think Dan's competition was better.
Sure.
When you're talking about just absolute aggressive, mauling strength, I mean, Dan Severn is all of that, man. I mean, we have so many highlights of him, from the suplexes, from the headbutts, from the submissions. I mean, he got arm triangles, rear naked chokes. Dan Severn could do it all.
Yeah, he could.
He's super incredibly durable. He has great cardio. I mean, if I had to give him a weakness, I would just say he's bad off his back.
Yeah.
But he's never really on his back because he's that goddamn good.
Well, he was on his back of the 5 minutes that the fight was on the ground with Ken, he was on his back for 4.5 of those minutes.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But hey, when he fought Ken, the 30 seconds that he had top control, he did more damage than the entirety of Ken being in control of that fight. So I think Dan is pound for pound number one. Go watch his fights. You'll agree. He's the man. Dan's the man.
So I do agree with almost everything you said, and I think Dan Severn is the man. Dan Severn is, 2 fights back to back. We were like, that's the most dominant fight in UFC history. Dan Severn versus Tank Abbott. Then about 15 minutes later, 25 minutes later, that's the most dominant fight in UFC history. It's Dan Severn versus Oleg Taktarov. I will give Dan all of that. Ken Shamrock, Oleg Taktarov twice, Tank Abbott, Paul Verlins. Great victories, super aggressive, love it. However, I believe that when it came time to tangle with Ken Shamrock, he lost twice.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that was a 50-50 fight, the last one.
Yeah. So, yeah, or a draw. That would have been an appropriate spot for a draw. Dude, that's it. That's our top 10. Don Frye impressed the fuck out of me.
Oh, yeah. Don Frye was awesome.
Don Frye was like the first guy that really did embrace stand-up.
Yeah.
And then
well-rounded game. Grappling.
Super
clinch,
well-rounded. Relatively well-rounded, now. Right. Anyone else that you want to talk about?
Man. Paul Verlins, I think he should not be forgotten about. I think he put on some entertaining fights. He always had, he only lost to good competition. I mean, he's low on the list compared to, Don Frye and Mark Coleman, but people have heard of these guys. Paul Verlins, RIP, he's a little bit forgotten about, and I thought he was fun.
I'm a huge fan, and I'd never heard of Paul Verlins.
Right. Yeah.
I'd never heard of Oleg Taktarov.
Oh, him too.
Yeah, Oleg Taktarov's definitely one of these guys. Dude, okay, so just maybe fights that didn't quite make it into the fight of the night or whatever, some fights that I would just recommend people go back and watch. Honestly, both Dan Severn fight versus Tank Abbott and Dan Severn versus Oleg Taktarov, it's not that they were that entertaining because they were the most lopsided fights up until now, and I don't mean UFC 10, I mean UFC 1 through 10 plus the fucking 300 events that I've watched from UFC 40 to UFC 310 or whatever. That is the worst beating I've ever fucking seen. Twice.
It was gnarly.
He was 270 pounds and he went 100%.
All natural, baby.
100% for 45 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
Tank Abbott allegedly had a dream that he was being by Freddie Mercury.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to make fun of Dan Severn.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you didn't know that?
No, I thought you actually were trying to allude that he had that dream. And
No. He said that. In commentary, dude, that's some more crazy shit that's happening the commentary booth.
Yeah.
Tank Abbott's just sitting there talking about guys in the ring about how he had a dream that he was by one of them. Imagine Paul Felder saying that.
The Irish Dragon.
The Irish Dragon.
Yeah, right. Man, I do think these characters that we're meeting through UFC 1 through 10, I don't think they're going to last. And I think that's what's going to be really interesting about these old days is you see fighters now and they last for years.
Yeah.
4 years, you see the evolution of a fighter. 5 years. These fighters, I don't think they make it out of a year and a half, other than like the elites.
What do you mean? Are
we gonna hear Cal Worsham's name in 5 UFC events? You know, I feel like these characters are just gonna come and go.
For sure. I thought you meant them actually being characters. No, for sure, man. I mean, unless they're just randomly thrown on prelims.
Right, but I think that's what's kind of special is if you don't watch these, you just miss these characters. You'll never fucking see them.
For sure. And the interviews back then were so fucking funny because, like, they didn't know, like you said, there was no social media. They didn't know how to interview.
Yeah.
They literally were like, hi, I'm fighting for my wife and children. You know what I mean?
I'm going to win because I'm the best.
Yeah. I'm going to win because I practiced really hard. Shit like that.
I'm going to use my right hand.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, yeah.
He's not going to be able to handle the beast. Fucking Dan Severn. So, all right, well, let's jump into notable bros then, man. Is that them? Is Paul Verhoeven's the first one at the top? So, guys, throughout our time watching UFC 1 through 10, there were the Dan Severns, there were the Don Fryes, the Ken Shamrocks, the Royce Gracies, the Mark Colemans, the Tank Abbotts, the guys that were destructive forces in their own way. And then there were the bros who didn't quite do anything, but they are so memorable. Some of them did something. Some of them did some things, but these dudes didn't necessarily make our list because they were like great fighters or had potential. They could have made our list for any number of reasons, and that's why they are the notable bros.
That was good. That was pretty good.
So you want to dig into
these guys on the notable bros, they're not badasses. I mean, like maybe a few are, but you know, we just like these guys because of some weird niche reasons that we're love to share with you guys.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the true joys of UFC 1 through 10 was this, because like you said, this had character. These were the rough around the edges weird shit.
Yeah.
So without further ado, notable bro number 1.
Notable bro number 1, I talked about him earlier, Paul Verhoeven. He was the polar bear is what they called him. He was a trap fighter, which is really interesting. Like 6'7", 300 pounds. I mean, he had a size advantage on every single person he stepped into the octagon with. And he beat the shit out of everybody except who wasn't elite. Yeah,
which is why he was also, there was 2 of these notable bros that happened to be on our top 10 pound for pound list. He was number 10. Paul Verhoeven, I just want to read a quote from Paul Verhoeven. I'm really excited to get into the octagon. It's getting a little too virtual out there for me. Keep in mind, this is 1994, and he's in Alaska. Notable bro number 2, Patrick Smith. Patrick Smith was kind of the biggest meme on Casual Academy because for me, he was kind of a meme because he was probably of anyone in the entire thing, he was the most pure psychopath.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like, and he was actually unless you were like good, if you were not good, he was definitely better. But once you started to be, he really only lost to some elite guys.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think he was just roided the fuck out.
Yeah.
He was just had no way how to unleash it other than to beat the shit out of people.
Yeah.
I mean, when he stepped into the octagon against people, he wouldn't just like try to get them to the ground and like submit them. He would like try to snap their neck.
Yeah,
like,
he was violent.
He started off a fight with just a Spartan kick. 1 second
straight
in,
to the chest.
Sprint to a Spartan kick. That's insane.
Yeah.
So I always said Patrick Smith is my GOAT just because of how fucking fun he was to watch.
Yeah. And we were talking, and also if you remember, this kind of conversation started because real early on when we were talking, we were like talking about who's going to be on our pound for pound list, which we fucking still clearly need to put on there, which we will have that going into season 2. But
sure,
dude, you were like, you kept bringing up Patrick Smith as like this guy that was potentially going to like live through the ages. And I was like, dude, like Patrick Smith, I doubt we remember him in like 5 years worth of UFC time.
Right.
Now we will remember him forever because he was constantly our reference point. So for that, Patrick Smith is our notable bro number 2.
Patrick Smith. Hope to get an interview with you one day.
Tank Abbott is actually one of 2 guys that is both a notable bro and a top 10 pound for pound fighter of the era. Tank was a notable bro because he came to fucking fight. He famously had beef with everyone from John McCarthy to John McCarthy's wife to fucking Jim Brown. But Tank Abbott was a fighter through and through, and he took an ass whooping like a champion. He had insane knockout power. And once you get this dude on the mic, it is guaranteed fireworks. And it's not fireworks because he's well-spoken. He is kind of well-spoken. It's fireworks because he would say the craziest shit, and it just kind of ended
no filter. I mean, no filter on this guy. Truly one of one. There's no person like Tank Abbott at all.
Like, one of his quotes was, he's watching a replay of one of his fights, and he literally says, "Oh, you got to turn that off. I'm getting sexually aroused." I mean, enough said.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's wild.
And for that reason, Tank Abbott is one of our notable bros. The next one.
So the next notable bro we have is Gerard Jurdeau, UFC 1 legend who has the first ever knockout in the UFC, which is just a brutal head kick on Tali Tuli, who went on to star in Hawaii 5-0. But Gerard Jurdeau, man, we have conflicting information about him because there are some people who say this guy's a Nazi and he's like one of the dirtiest fighters ever, like would eye gouge people and shit. And then there's other people who are like, nah, that wasn't a Nazi symbol. That was some Buddhist thing. And I'm just like, I don't know what to believe, but
didn't you say he himself like said his family died in the Holocaust?
That's what he was saying, but I mean, like that would be the perfect cover up.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone
to be
finding out you're a Nazi.
That's exactly what a Nazi would say.
You know.
Exactly.
So Gerard Jurdeau, I wish we saw him fight more than we did in UFC 1 because he was super entertaining to watch, and how we said nobody really emphasized the stand up. Gerard Jurdeau did. He definitely did. And he was great. He was a really good stand-up fighter.
Yeah.
He lost to Royce Gracie. But I think anybody would lose to Royce Gracie.
Especially in UFC 1. Yeah.
Right. But, Gerard Jurdeau, wish we saw more out of you. Hope we get to see you in Chapter 2.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. We did see him corner somebody. Another thing about Gerard Jurdeau is, and this, I know that you may not be crazy about this opinion, pure stand-up, outside of Tank's power, I still don't feel like we saw anyone quite as good at pure stand-up as him.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, dude, his leg kicks, his jabs, his straights. I mean, he threw down the middle. He was throwing calf kicks before anybody else.
Right, yeah. Head kick knockout. No one got a head kick knockout. He's the only guy in 10 UFCs.
Now, keep in mind that head kick
prelims,
knockout was about the same height as a calf, though.
I guess that's true, because he was on the ground. Yeah.
So, there you go. Notable bro, Gerard Jurdeau. One of the most notable bros. I got to hand it to him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Kevin Rozier.
Yeah. The Blob.
The Blob. He's probably the definition of notable bro because he kind of just showed up to the UFC, fought, lost, and went on with life and probably drank 30 fucking beers in the back room.
Yeah. Kevin Rozier was like our intro to the UFC where we're like, these guys are just average bros, like fighting. Like this guy, apparently he was like a kickboxing expert, but his only technique was just a powerful right hand.
Yeah, and it was like a winging.
Up. Yeah.
I got Keith Hackney on here because I think Keith Hackney was the best fighter that was not good.
Yeah, you were talking about stand-up earlier with Gerard Jurdeau being the best one, but I think it's Keith Hackney.
Best striking?
Yeah.
Why?
Keith Hackney? He had that crazy jab. I thought he was faster. He just fought better competition, in my opinion.
No doubt about it. Keith Hackney is one of these guys that seem to kind of fight like elite or right underneath elite. And dude, if you don't remember Keith Hackney, Keith Hackney has that wild, absurd, just winding punches on Emmanuel Yarborough, which was crazy. So Keith Hackney's a notable bro. I would say to the extent that he's a notable bro is go back and watch some of his shit, right? Is there anything really major to say about him?
I mean, Wonder Boy's dad. If you look at Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, this guy literally looks like his dad and fights just like him. It's crazy. But the Keith Hackney versus Emmanuel
Hold on.
Yarborough
Keith Hackney fights just like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson?
No. The stance, just the karate.
Oh, okay, yeah. He has got that wide karate stance, bouncing in and out. Okay,
Yeah.
Like that's a bit of a stretch, dude.
No, but Keith Hackney versus Emmanuel Yarbrough was one of the most entertaining fights that I've personally seen from UFC 1 through 10, maybe ever. I don't know. It was just so outrageous.
Oh, crazy.
I mean, a 300-pound weight difference. At one point, Keith Hackney gets...
Was it 300 pounds? I thought that guy was 610 pounds.
So 400 pounds, right?
400
so
pound weight difference.
Weight difference. And then at one point, Keith Hackney gets thrown outside the octagon.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah.
So... Yeah, Keith Hackney, a notable bro for winning that fight. I mean,
yeah.
Props to him.
And he was jacked.
Yeah.
Jacked. Like, dude, if he didn't have that mullet, he almost could have looked like, he just looked like a 1980s character.
The legend, the NFL legend, and honestly now a UFC legend in my heart. The best commentator, Jim Brown. Jim Brown was the man, bro. I really miss Jim Brown on the commentary. I thought he had such a fun, entertaining commentary in the first few. And he was always so appreciative of the fighters, even though he didn't know what the fuck was going on.
No clue, yeah.
He was like, the Royce Gracie. It's a bad man.
This whole competition is put together to see if anybody can take out Royce Gracie, and I don't think they can.
Yeah, you know, like that's it. And then,
I see no technique. They're just swinging. He is from the streets. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, Jim Brown was,
he was awesome.
Fucking, yeah, he's a notable bro. A notable bro, unless you were his wife, I guess. You know, he beat the fuck out of his wife, apparently.
No.
Yeah, like a bunch of times.
No, man.
Did I just ruin it for you? Maybe he didn't.
He probably did.
Maybe that fucking bitch was lying. No, I think, yeah.
Damn, bro.
Yeah, dude. So, hey, man, you can't have it all, you know? Well, notable bro Jim Brown, buddy. Hey, we're talking about the man behind the mic. What he does at home is not really, we can't speculate.
Yeah, it's not notable, eh?
Are you ready? You think you're ready for the most notable bro?
I don't know. Let's get a little build up.
For what? I'm built up. You build your own ass up over there, boy.
No, absolutely the best notable bro, the best character we've ever met.
The one guy who we considered getting a poster of. Because
we will get
a poster of him. It'll probably end up being a Google image that we have to get stretched out because no one will ever be able to find him. But Casual Academy, Season 1, Chapter 1, UFC 1 to 10, the most notable bro of all the notable bros, Harold Howard.
Double H. You heard of Triple H. This is Double H.
This is Double H. They say that this is actually Triple H's dad. Harold Howard is the most notable bro because, dude, if there was ever going to be a movie made about one random dude from the UFC that had virtually no impact, that did basically nothing in terms of like accomplishments, but just was just fucking fun, and like his enthusiasm for the game was just obviously contagious because we fucking fell in love with him. He wore fucking gi. He had like 9 different black belts. He wore those gi pants that said Canada. He had like, if you looked up mullet, Harold Howard has the greatest mullet of all time.
Yeah, Harold Howard looks like he fell into a time machine in 1980 or 19. Yeah, and awoke into UFC. Like, he does not look like he's from this era.
No, he doesn't even look like he's from 1994, back in 1994.
Right, yeah. He's an enigma, bro. Like, Harold Howard is...
The most famous quote of Harold Howard is he's looking right into the... And it's clearly very rehearsed.
Yeah.
He looks into the camera and says, "We got a saying back home, and it's, if you're coming on... come on." And it's so epic. And here's the thing. In terms of his fighting skills, it's not like he didn't have any.
No, he definitely had skills.
It's just that he was so wild and just, he never committed to any positions. He does have one of our knockout of the nights.
Yeah.
But dude, and also with takedowns, he was one of these guys, he never tried to stop a takedown. He just rolled through them.
Yeah, he did.
But he would tap so quick.
Yeah.
I think Harold Howard might have been like a Canadian bar fighting legend and then just came into the UFC.
Got to be the most badass Canadian since GSP.
Or you mean before GSP? He probably was.
Yeah.
Was Steve Jenham Canadian? No, Steve Jenham's a cop.
No.
We're done with UFC 1 through 10. I want to look forward at like not just predictions of who's going to be champion, how's Mark Coleman going to do, but just general predictions for the UFC.
Whole sport, I think we should do
the whole sport.
Yeah.
So obviously we already know kind of what's happening at like UFC 40, 45, 50, because that's like when we kind of started.
Yes.
We ended with Mark Coleman like beating one of the greats, Don Frye.
Right.
Where does he go?
Man, so it's interesting because I believe the UFC tournaments stop in the teens, don't they?
I have no idea.
I believe they do. So that makes me think that Coleman does not rack up as many wins as Royce Gracie on tournaments. Because Royce Gracie has won the most tournaments, 3.
Yeah.
No one's ever won 3.
Right.
So that makes me think that they're going to stop the tournament style soon. But Mark Coleman looks so dominant right now that I'm like, oh, he would break Royce's record of tournament wins.
I think Mark Coleman is kind of like one of the introductions to this wrestling thing, because I know for a fact that we still have other guys coming. This isn't a wrestler, but we both know that we have Vitor Belfort coming.
Yeah.
And like Vitor Belfort definitely has a better like longevity record than Mark Coleman that I know of.
Yeah, no, definitely. I wonder, like when they're going to start doing weight classes or something like that. I feel like that's going to come about in UFC 11 through 20. I truly do, because I don't think...
So there's your official prediction. You think weight classes happen in 11
through 20? Yeah, I think weight classes happen because it's just too fucking Wild West chaotic right now. I mean, they already have pressure from like the government being like,
right.
What is this? Like, there was so much pressure from the government to what's going on in the early UFC is in one UFC, I believe, is UFC 9.
The no punching?
You were not allowed to strike, and that's just
I think that's
crazy.
when Dan beat Ken.
Yeah, and people say it's the worst, like most boring fight of all time.
Ken, I listened to an interview with Ken, and he's like, well, what was happening with that fight was me and Dan agreed not to punch, and I think Dan forgot or something like that. Okay, dude, that's
my prediction. Weight class is coming in, and I think Coleman's gonna run shit for a little bit.
I predict that Mark Coleman might run things for 1 or 2 more, as in have some good victories. I just think that people are going to come in and be able to match his wrestling, but also stand up. Because Mark Coleman's stand up, it's kind of not terrible, like when he's close up, like in like uppercuts and things like that, when he's like clinch striking. But his like distance striking is awful.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, even for that time, it's bad.
Yeah, and he did say at the end of it, winded as fuck, that he's going to get better. And he's really old.
But yeah, man.
He's already like 36, isn't he? 37, something like that. Isn't he?
I don't know, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, then we're going to get Pride coming up too. So we're going to see some legends coming up.
We know we have Joe Rogan coming in.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited about that.
Me too.
I know we have like Vitor Belfort coming in.
When does Couture come in? Like UFC 30?
No, dude. It's got to be before that.
That's what I'm thinking too.
But I say before that, but I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Knows? This is fun, bro. We don't know.
I love that we're guessing, because I like not knowing some of this shit. Okay. I think by UFC 20, the pound for pound best fighters in the world are overwhelmingly not in the UFC.
I completely agree. And I think that's why we need to watch them side by side, watch in chronological order. That way we can be like,
yeah,
this is who the Pride roster is. I think they would beat the shit out of the UFC champion or something like that.
I love that. I think Sprawl and Brawl is going to come towards the end. I think like UFC 18, 19, 20, we're going to see a lot of Sprawl and Brawl.
That'd be fire. That sounds like it's going to be some fun fights.
Yeah, because that's literally like, it's going to be like, oh, we can't go to the ground. Like,
yeah,
I'm not letting this go to the ground, and we're going to stand up and bang.
Right.
And just one last real quick thing, like on Royce, like I keep coming back to this where we say he was overrated. It's such a nuanced conversation, because he was overrated, but like he's pulling fucking triangles on Dan Severn.
Yeah.
Like that's hard to do in like a good jiu-jitsu.
But to me, like Royce Gracie, people like really talk about him as being like one of the GOATs, and like it's just like he was great, but the problem is people just overhyped him.
For sure, he's not a GOAT.
If
he's not
somebody's
even
like Royce Gracie is on my GOAT list, you'd be like, oh, bro, you don't know.
You have no clue. Like,
fuck you're talking about.
Or you say, I mean, some people get really caught up in that, like, well, because of like, because of the times or because of what he did or whatever. It's like, okay, I respect that. But if we're just talking about fights, he's not on the fucking GOAT list.
And the thing is, I could totally see that argument if it was a long reign of dominance. But it was like three
fights against the
UFCs.
worst that the UFC had to offer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there anybody from this list that you think, like, from the top 10, do you think anyone improves, gets better, or stays in the top 5 or moves up?
I think they all get worse.
You think they all get worse? What's crazy to me is having seen Dan's record, he clearly doesn't get worse.
Like, this guy would be like, people would be talking about him like crazy.
Right.
So it makes me think the records seem to be a little exaggerated.
Dude, but you also do. You have brought this.
My guy, so.
You've brought this up more than anybody. The UFC is the most. I'm not going to say that we're so involved in it that it seems like it's the most. This could be the case with every sport. The revisionist history of the UFC is absurd.
Oh, it's really bad, especially because most people got in during the COVID era. It's like you don't know.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
you know?
Between what happened between 2012 and 2016 alone was legendary.
Dude, I'll have people talking like trying to discredit like GSP, and they'll be like, John Fitch was a can. And it's like, bro, John Fitch was hella good. They're like, Kenny Florian sucked. And it's like, these guys were great.
Oh, Kenny was the
That's
man.
what I'm saying. These guys were great. Like, they don't know.
Yeah,
so, I
you
do
really
think UFC revisionist is crazy. Like, if they're doing weight classes, and we'll say Royce has 3 tournament wins, I think somebody's going to get more than 3 defenses.
More than 3 what? Title defenses? Yeah. In UFC 11 to 20?
Yeah, if they do weight classes.
And tournaments or just in general?
That's really interesting, right? Because Mark Coleman would have 1 tournament win and then maybe a title or 2 or something like that. I don't know, but that's
but then like, what the fuck is a title? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
Do they get it at UFC 11 and then defend it at UFC 12?
Yeah, see, I don't know.
That's all. That's kind of, you brought up the UFC being real wacky at this time.
How do they change it?
Yeah, dude, that's, it's funny. You can think about like how you would do it, and I know what I would do, but I probably would have tanked the fucking UFC if I did it the way I did it. I'd have had Tank fight 2 ring girls at once. So, dude, I'm good on this if you are.
No, same, man. UFC 1 through 10 was a blast. It was so fun.
It was fucking cool. It was cool. So, all right, guys. Well, this was, thanks for joining us. This was UFC 1 through 10, kind of our recap on it. There was a million things to go through. These are kind of the things that we chose, the notable bros, some kind of predictions for next time. Overall, UFC 1 to 10 was just constant change. UFC 1 looked nothing like UFC 10. I think we're going to get a little more stability in UFC 11 to 20.
Definitely.
But I think the changes will be more long-term impactful.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And definitely, man. I think UFC 11 through 20 is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be, and tune in for chapter 2, man, because I think they're only going to get better, in my opinion. I mean, you're going to get more better fighters. You're going to get more balanced fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to actually see like dog fights where people like had to pull shit out the fire.
And all these legends that came up in 8, 9, 10 are still going to be there, still fighting each other.
Yeah.
Now, I do understand that there's a time period that they refer to as the dark ages of the UFC. I don't know when that is, but man, I know that there is some kind of legislation pending against the UFC. So
that's fine. We'll be watching Pride, where shit's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Pride too. Yeah, that's it. That's right too. Yeah. So for chapter 2, we're going to be digging into some Pride stuff. So, all right, guys, cool.
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Well, this was Casual Academy, the recap for UFC 1 through 10, chapter 1. If you guys joined us this whole time, thank you for doing that. If you guys have been in the comment section, thank you for that. Please do subscribe. Last time we asked for your subscriptions, We were hoping to get over 100. Now we're looking to reach that 500 mark. Pretty soon we're going to be looking to reach that 1,000 mark. The podcast is growing, and it is 100% because you guys are contributing and watching. If you like the content, let us know. If you love the content, let us know. If you hate it, go suck a dick. Listen, thank you guys, and we will see you next time.
Peace. Go suck a dick.